What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of So What's the Issue? Y'all know I'm your boy Solo Foe. Today I'm going to be talking about a post that I did the other day where I told people basically about some of the names that I was called as a kid. Um, and I ain't really think much on it whenever I was a kid, like, because it was just like a normal event. So, I'll say this. If my parents were to see this, they would say stuff like, "Oh, it was just a joke." They would say, "Oh, I was angry at the time," or something in the middle of that, something between those two things. But explain how it kind of got started. So um, let me see. I'm trying to figure out how in detail I want to go with this. But growing up, uh, okay. Okay, I'll start here. My mother and my father had this love hate relationship or whatever you want to call it, and this is from my assessment. They loved each other to death, but my father was doing things that made my mother have to do things in reaction to his things. And I'll give you the biggest example of this is my I have a brother that is the exact same age as me, and you can already see how that's already the start of a story. Being said, my mother did a lot of, things out of anger. She fought with the other woman. She, got into it with the other woman's family. It was a lot of, and it's all behind a man. It's all behind, a guy that decided to be promiscuous, I guess you want to call it. So over time, what ended up happening, they had me. And when they had me, I'll say from my assessment of the situation, um, when I was bred, I was a form of their hatred towards each other, their anger towards each other. Even though both of them probably really, really loved each other, they really had a lot of anger and spite towards each other. One hated one for leaving, one hated one for doing, the things that they decided to do. And, it just created a bad situation. So growing up, as I got older, my mother had a lot of jealousy issues and things like that. So I moved to 7th Street. Well, I moved to Lindbergh Avenue when I was about 12 years old. And this is probably when the worst part of my my history happened when I actually moved to Lindbergh. When I moved to Lindbergh, the problem was I ended up moving down the street from my brother that was the same age as me. And me and my brother, we had a decent relationship, not a great relationship or anything like it, but we had a really decent relationship. And me as a child, I was a loner. I ain't really like messing with too many people. I didn't have too many friends. I didn't like going around too many people. So I only vibed with who I vibed with. So my brother, like I said, lived down the street, but I also had a little brother. Now, what happened with my little brother was he's a floater. He did whatever he wanted to do. He went where he wanted to do. He was just one of those kids. But what ended up happening, my older brother, his mother had rules for his house, and the rules for his house was that he could only have one company at a time. So you can see where this will come in and start to create a problem. So my mother took it as that his mother was being funny towards her because she knew that she had two kids, and if one child was able to go over to the house, then the other child should have been able to go over to the house as well. Now, for him, he was an obedient child to his mother, because it made sense to be obedient to your mother, quote unquote. So basically, what ended up happening was she would come over and she would come and get me from the house, and she would be upset and angry because she would be like, "Oh, this person over here is being petty towards my other child." Now, my mother already had, what do you want to call it, babying issues with my little brother already to begin with. So it already didn't help the situation that she babied my younger brother. So basically, when I started going over there and when I would go over there, like I said, my brother was pretty much the only person that I would hang out in the neighborhood until I actually developed my own friend group or whatnot. So what I would do is sometimes I would go down to my brother's house, and every time I did, my little brother would be, my mother would ask my little brother where I was at, and he would tell her that I was at my older brother's house, and when he told her that, she would go storming down to my older brother's house and be like, "Oh no, y'all trying to be funny, you being fucked up towards your little brother, you being petty, you being this XYZ." And like I said, I already didn't kind of have the best childhood growing up as it was, but whenever this situation happened, it got a lot worse because with the situation, like you see conflicting situation with the jealousy, the pettiness, the rivalry, the back and forth, and all of this and XYZ, and already, like I said, I was already a form of anger that my parents had for each other. And she took that out on me, that the mother of my brother wouldn't allow my little brother to come to the house whenever she wasn't home, when she was at work. And you would think that this is a very simple and understood rule, but like I said, because my mother had her own feelings, she had her own biases, and she had her own whatever issues and stuff like that, she took these things out on me. So what ended up happening was everything that happened when it came to my little brother became another form of me being petty towards my little brother. So my little brother had a birthday party. And I tell you, this birthday party was probably the worst experience of my life. I got basically tortured this night. And I'm not going to go into too much crazy details, but I basically ended up getting tortured by my mother and her husband at the time. They took turns literally beating on me while my friends from the neighborhood were upstairs. And my friends will tell y'all this story from their own mouths. Like, I got tortured for a long time in the basement by these two people, and it actually got so bad that where my actual father had to show up and have words with my stepfather, and it was just a bad situation. But I'll tell you the reason why the situation happened, and it's so crazy. The reason why I got tortured this night is because I got up to use the restroom, and my mother said, "I knew you was going to be doing something funny. I just knew." And she was sitting in the dark. This was in the middle of the night. I literally did nothing but got up to go use the restroom. And I didn't even know she was there. I don't even know why she would be sitting in the living room or anything like this. It's a long backstory to that. But I got tortured. And then the next night over, she repeated my younger brother's birthday. And when she repeated my younger brother's birthday, she started this name. She said, "Ya Henry ass bet not go off being funny and petty and all of this XYZ." But then it turned into this actual thing of where she started calling me a Henry ass, petty ass, hoe ass, jerk ass nigga. And, as a kid, I was just like, whatever, I moved on with my day, whatever. So the next night I spent my little brother's entire birthday party laying in my bedroom closet because I didn't want anything to do with what they had going on, because she was already in a tender place, I'll call it. So this caused a whole nother whatever, like I said. But y'all can see kind of what I'm saying, like what happened with this situation. Like, just growing up, she had a lot of anger towards my father for being promiscuous, and she thought she was going to be the one. And by far, I'm not blaming her for another person's actions. My father was messed up to her and whatever, and this stuff was when I was younger and before I was born. So, whatever they had going on is whatever they had going on. But it trickled down to what ended up being the treatment between them that happened. So, on my father's side, my father ended up calling me a lot of things and saying a lot of things about me. But one of his favorite two things to say about me was "bitch ass son of mine," and then "Southwick was your daddy." So I was born in Southwick, for everybody that doesn't know. I was born in Southwick baby, last of the Southwick babies. And because of my father's anger towards my mother for leaving him and whatever, he took it out on me as well by saying shit like, "Hey, you know Southwick's your daddy, right? I ain't your daddy, right? Southwick's your daddy. You know, all these niggas over here, quote unquote XYZ, is your daddy." And he would go off and say shit like, "Bitch ass son of mine." Now, as a child, he would tell you, "Hey, shit, I was joking. I wasn't even all that serious with XYZ, and I wasn't even all this serious." And my father, still to this day, he says shit like, "Hey, if I ever did anything wrong to you, whatever." So he's never really took any accountability to what he's ever done to me. And a lot of my family members get mad at me, or not even, I don't even want to use the word angry, but a lot of family members get on me and they're like, "Hey, Tonio, you shouldn't hold so much of a resentment towards your father." And I'll tell you this, I told y'all a story before about me and my father and whatever, but I never really held no real resentment before a certain situation towards my father until after a bad situation that ended up happening. But there was a lot of stories that I could turn to where I could tell y'all all the things that my father did to me when I was younger, and people just sat around blind and act like they didn't see what was going on, and then turn around and made me the bad guy of a lot of situations, and whatever, XYZ. But he would do a lot of petty shit, a lot of fucked up shit to me. Like, he would literally take me to people's houses and have me cleaning up behind other people's kids. And understand, I got 18 brothers and sisters right now. So growing up, I probably already had 8, 9 brothers and sisters as it was. I already had plenty of brothers and sisters as it was. So outside of already going and cleaning up his house, cleaning up diapers, doing this and that, and he had me as his runner. He used to use me as his like runner, like, "Hey, Tonio, go do this. Tonio, go do that. Tonio this, Tonio that." He would literally come and pick me up after school or some shit like that and have me come do shit for other people. A lot of people in Beecher Terrace used to know him for doing a lot of kids events and stuff like that. He would go do kids events. And now understand, I was a kid at the time. He would go do a lot of kids events, and during these kids events, I wouldn't partake in any of the fun. I would be the person that would have to be the runner or handler behind all the other kids for the situations. So, like I said, this story basically is to really tell y'all what happens when you do have a baby with somebody on not the best of terms, and then turn around and you start to treat your child with that anger that you have for that relationship that you once had. And I can't say this completely to be a complete fact from what they would say, but this is my assessment of the situation and the things that I felt growing up. So, I can't speak for them completely, but this is how I feel. And when you have kids with these type of people, just from not having the best situation, from not, from you being angry, from you not, y'all already having issues, I would literally give the biggest suggestion in the world to people. Really think about who you having kids with. If y'all already having complications before the kid, please take the time to strap up and not put a kid between y'all situation, because I'm not saying every situation turns out as messy as my situation, but my situation turned out to be very, very messy and very, very bad. And the reason why I get on here and I do this show, and a lot of people don't like the way that I talk, they don't like my tone, but the reason why I get on here and I do this show is because I really don't want to see kids put in the same situation that I was put in whenever I was young. And I feel like I have a really bad story to tell. I feel like my childhood is full of a lot of bad things. And I'm not saying that the next person's story ain't as bad or bad like my story was bad, but I do want to tell my story, because coming out and having conversation, coming out and speaking is how you start to change the scope on what happens whenever, kids grow up. Like, we have to start talking about these things that go on in our communities and start making a change. But like I said, I want y'all to think about what I just said. I want y'all to think about the story I just told a little bit. I'll get on here and I'll tell more stories. I'll tell more things in the future. But you know, hopefully we can start changing our community. But I appreciate everybody for watching. I appreciate the comments, the likes and things like that. Hopefully everybody watches the full video. But this has been So What's the Issue? I'm your boy Solo Foe. Until next time.